I am joined today by the 75 grand winner of Dream Team 2021. It's Fergi, the host of the FPL Green Arrow podcast. Fergi, welcome to the channel. You're a regular around these parts.
I am, John, and I'm absolutely buzzing for the new season. I think I've been this excited for the start of a new season for about 5 or 6 years. I think it's going to be absolutely superb, and the team I've built as well. I'm pretty excited to share it. I think I'm gonna have a crack at a really good finish this year.
I hope so. And this today is all about having a crack and start, because we're going to look at your team rating and stick you up against a bunch of other people, all your peers, and see where you come out. You won 75 grand in Dream Team just last year, 2021. How have you spent it?
No, I've been on a few trips. I bought some golf clubs, but the vast majority has been kind of set aside for a pretty boring house extension. So we're getting that started in the next month or so. It's been a long time coming, but it was obviously amazing to kind of win it. But being a family man, I couldn't exactly go off to Vegas and blow it all, in that sort of fashion.
Well, look, anyone out there who's recently come into 75 grand, you might consider signing up to Hub with it. There's 50% off at the minute if you click the link in the description, and you can go over and get your team rated while you're at it. So Fergie, we're going to jump right in. Who is your starting goalkeeper?
I think this is a bit of a no-brainer, and I haven't seen him in loads of drafts, but for me, Mendy at Chelsea at 5 million is just a gift, and I think that people who are not going with him, I personally think, are just overthinking it a little bit. I mean, he's going to play for a premium defence all season. I know they play Spurs in game week 2, but for 5 million, if you consider, I can see a lot of like Reyes and Mesliers and stuff, which I just think, a 500,000 saving for keepers for bad teams. Appreciate why people are maybe going for Edison and Allison, but Mendy at 5 million is a bit of a gift, and he is number one. He won't be budging from it. The only way he'll be budging is if I need to scrape 500,000 from somewhere to kind of get another player in. But at the moment, he's nailed in my team.
I can see the comments already. Chelsea have been in disarray defensively. Why would you not pick Ramsdale? He's the same price, and he's predicted to score more points over the first 4 game weeks. Did Ramsdale come into your thinking?
He did a little, but I just feel that Chelsea overall are a better defence, a better team. I think they'll finish higher than Arsenal. I get the vibe that Chelsea are in disarray. I mean, you can define disarray how you want in pre-season, but I fully expect them to, win a few, most of their opening games quite comfortably, be tight at the back. He's a cracking keeper as well. He makes a lot of saves, so I'm perfectly happy to have him there.
Well, look, Mendy locked. Who is the bench option? Was there much thought that went into it, or just click the prettiest kit?
Well, it's been a bit of a dead spot until yesterday, actually, because it looks like Kasper Schmeichel is leaving Leicester, which means that Ward looks like he could be the number one at Leicester, which is obviously a great spot to have. A 4 million starting keeper is great to have on the bench. He may be the only one I could actually be tempted to actually start with and then put another 4 million if he needs to scrape 1 million. But at the moment, Ward of Leicester, it looks like Schmeichel's leaving. It looks like Ward will be number one. So he's kind of locked in as my reserve 4 million keeper now.
If it comes out, okay, you've Ward in your team. You've got Mendy and you've Ward. Ward's playing Brentford, the better fixture. Mendy's playing Everton in the better team. Do you think you could see yourself starting Ward in game week 1? And if he doesn't play, Mendy's going to come in. He's not going to get 10 minutes. He's going to get 90 or none. So does that Brentford fixture for Ward as Leicester's keeper interest you, or would it just be Mendy locked?
No, Mendy locked. I think the only way I would start Wood. I'm a big believer in starting your premium players from premium clubs above lesser players from lesser clubs, regardless. I'm sure we've all fallen foul of. I think I benched Cancelo last season for like a 14 pointer, and I benched Rudiger for a 14 pointer. So I'm a big believer in starting your premium players from premium clubs and not leaving them on the bench. So the only way I would play Ward is if we got the kind of hint he's definitely number one, and then if he was to become my number one keeper, but I can't really see that happening kind of a day or two. So happy with Mendy. You're not going to talk me out of him, John. You've done a good job in tempting me, but I'm going with Mendy at the moment. Yeah.
Let us know in the comments if Mendy's madness or if Mendy's
he's a gift. He's a gift.
Is Mendy madness or is Mendy magical? Let us know in the comments. Oh, I like that. All right, who is your most template defender?
Incredibly boring, probably the same as everyone else, but Trent Alexander-Arnold is just, he's in. No real point in talking, a great deal about him, but I think FPL have underpriced him again. 7.5 million on corners, on free kicks. Seems to be playing a bit even more advanced in pre-season than he has been in that kind of that inside right role. His goal against City in the Community Shield kind of highlighted that. So he is just set and forget for the season for me, Trent.
I asked Joshua Bull when he was on, what price would Trent have to be for you not to pick him?
I think it's a really good question. I still think I would play 8 for him, but I would think he would have to be kind of pushing the 8.5 for me to really contemplate not going with him. I just think he's that good. And even then, I probably would. I think he's going to have to be, I think he would have to be 9 million for me to really consider it. But I think I'd still pay 8.5 for him, because if you just look at, the value across the players in the game, even if he was 8.5 million, he would still be, in terms of points per game and points per million, he'd still be right up there. So, yeah.
Trent locked. Who's number 2?
I've gone for a double up. Andy Robertson, for me, he's probably he's almost even more, well, he's not more locked than Trent, but he's as locked. So Robertson and Trent were the 2 first names on my team sheet. Looking how he performed in the second half of the season last year when Diaz signed, he looked even more attacking. He looked really good re-attacking in the Community Shield as well. I think he finished the second half of last season kind of ahead of Trent again in terms of points and points per million and all these things. So I see no reason for that to change. And again, I think Robertson at 7 million, he would have to be 8 or 8.5 for me not to consider him. So the 2 of them locked in my team.
It's going to be just so fun watching Liverpool, because so many people everyone pretty much has Trent and Salah, and if you've also got Robertson, every time Liverpool are playing, you just sit down, get the popcorn out, crack a beer and have a ball. 105 minutes of pure joy. So
from the left, from the right,
everywhere, from the left, from the right, particularly on the right, because everyone's going to have Salah. But can't wait to watch them this season with fantasy in mind. Who's your third defender?
I've gone for a bit of a wild card pick as my third defender. Not too wild card, but at the moment, I've gone for Doherty from Spurs. So he's 5 million. And if we just remember how he was performing around, I think it was game week 30, 31 last season, he's basically playing as a right forward. And he got to almost essential status at some point until he got injured. When he got injured, obviously, he was outright, but he is one of the most advanced forwards in the league when he's playing. There's a bit of an obvious risk there. He could share minutes with Emerson Royale and Jed Spence, but judging from his form last season, judging from that he started their last friendly on the weekends on the right hand side, I think that Doherty is a good bet as it stands. There's obviously still a few days to kind of go until the deadline, but at the moment, unless I get a real hint, he's not going to start. I think at 5 million home to Southampton, I think he's a really good bet, and I really like him. So he's in. Yeah, no,
I like it. It is obviously that rotation risk would be the big worry. I was at the game he got injured in last season, and you're right, he was borderline essential before that. So I like the pick. It's a bit different, which is always lovely to see. Who is your fourth defender?
So the fourth one is his partner in crime. So as you're probably kind of getting the vibe, I love the wing backs, but I'm going for Perisic for a double up for 5.5 million. I don't expect Perisic and Doherty to play 90 minutes every week, but I think this could actually help in terms of locking in clean sheets as well. So if they come off at 65 or 70 minutes and they're keeping a clean sheet and then they concede late, they get the points, watching them in the last friendly, knowing what he can do, Perisic on that left-hand side. Again, just incredibly attacking, 5.5 million, great value. And I'll be watching the wings of both those Liverpool's and Spurs games, watching them flying up and down, whipping in crosses, hopefully taking a few shots. And I fancy the double up there as well for Spurs.
Conte starts Jed Spence and Sessegnon, Fergie cries.
He does. I won't get to my bench, but I will be crying.
Is this fifth defender going to be a starter or a sub?
He's going to be a starter, definitely. I've gone for big at the back. I'm a big advocate. Like I say, I love these wing backs. In my view, again, another essential in João Cancelo for Man City. Not sure how much he'll do in game week 1. I do think that away to West Ham, I fancy West Ham to score, but just in general, they got Bournemouth after that in game week 2, Newcastle in game week 3. He's one of those players, when you see a player and when you should have someone and you haven't got them and you think, why have I not got this player? Yeah. And that I fall into that camp when I watch Trent and Robertson and Cancelo, and I just can't do it to myself because every time he goes forwards, I just think, why haven't I got him? So I just think he's a magnificent player. He's been given the number 7 shirt. I'm not sure whether that's a sign of anything. Probably not. But, he's really dangerous on that left-hand side. I think you'll start the season on the left-hand side and big at the back, flying wing-backs. Here we go. Assists, goals, clean sheets, all top 4 clubs. I think that's a really rock solid base to start the team on.
The one kind of glaring omission here, if you're talking big at the back, is you've saved $500,000 on James, or saved $1 million depending on who you've brought in instead of him for Perisic or Doherty. James at $6 million, you've left him out. You have Mendy, so you obviously back the defence.
Exactly.
Reece James attacking outputs not interest you?
It does interest me, but you kind of touched on it earlier. I don't think they're in disarray, but I think the back line is going to be reshuffled, and I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't fancy to keep a clean sheet in game week 2 against Spurs, and this is again partially why I picked Mendy, because if Chelsea do keep a clean sheet, I want a little bit of those lovely clean sheet points. That's another reason why I went for Mendy. But obviously James, Chilwell are in my thoughts for the future. I can get to them from any of these players as well, so it's quite flexible. But I fancy the other players. I see value in Doherty and Perisic early doors. I think Spurs are a settled team. I think out of the top 4 or 5 or even 6 teams, if you look, they're the only team who are going to have a very, very similar starting 11 to last year. They've strengthened in terms of depth. All the other teams are gonna undergo a bit of surgery to either their front lines or back lines. Spurs are just moving on. So this is why I'm going for Spurs ahead of Chelsea. I'm also a Spurs fan. Not that.
Yeah,
a little bit of bias there.
All right, take this one with a pinch of salt then. So yeah, I think in terms of fixtures, like looking at the first 6 anyway, before we get to Man City, if you're looking to plan sort of medium term, Fulham, Forest, and Southampton there, and then obviously West Ham, Wolves and Chelsea a bit harder, but Fulham, Forest, Southampton, 3 plump fixtures for them, so I like it. Midfield, I'm going to guess you went with that guy.
I did go for that guy. I've gone for Leon Bailey.
Oh God!
Is that the guy you were talking about? Is that the guy you were talking about?
Whoa! Let's get this rejigged. Leon Bailey. I think it's the first time Mo Salah hasn't been the first pick, so Leon Bailey is in a smashing pre-season.
You said that
Bournemouth
guy
first week.
You said that guy.
Yeah. Bournemouth first game. No brainer for you.
Fancy it. 5 million. I was torn between him and please don't laugh at this pick, but Miguel Almiron of Newcastle. I said don't laugh, but Almiron,
tried.
Almiron has scored 6 goals in pre-season, 2 assists. Historically, he's not done very well for Newcastle. I'm kind of torn. I'll probably go with Bailey, I think, but Almiron was kind of vying for that spot as well. I do fancy Almiron to do okay in the first game week or 2, but he's probably definitely a transfer out, I would guess. So I'm going for Bailey. Spoke to Adam last night on the Green Arrow on this channel, and he feels that Bailey is a definite starter. And when he does play, when he's fit, he looks absolutely electric. So I think for 5 million, he's well worth a punt.
Well, it's safe to say Almiron would be a big differential. 1.1 teams selected by a time of recording. So if you have the balls to switch, I applaud you. If not, falling with the pack with Bailey is probably a good shout. But that's a budget, nice 5 million guy out of the way. Who is next?
So I've gone for Mo Salah. You were right. Sadly enough,
I just got it in the wrong order. Yeah,
there's obviously tons of reasons, but he just starts the season so well. I think in the last 3 seasons, did he score a hat trick against Leeds? I think he got a goal and assist against Norwich 3 seasons ago. I think he got a goal and assist in the opening day last year. They play Fulham away, and then on to Palace the week after as well. If they didn't have that nice game to Palace the week after, I would have been tempted to maybe go for Son, because I do really like the look of Son home to Southampton in game week 1. But I can't afford everything. It's obviously especially with such an expensive back line. But Salah in for me, sadly, because I'd love to go against him, but at the moment he's in.
It's just hard. Yeah, it's impossible to go against him. Like for all the reasons listed, he's the highest predicted points on the My Team tool on Hub. 31 points, just shy of that, predicted over the first 4 game weeks, which is, you would take that. I think it's safe to say.
Absolutely, take 31 points.
Who is your third pick in midfield?
I've had a lot of debate about this, but I have gone for Martinelli. I know he's a bit of a popular pick at the moment, but with Smith Rowe not barely playing, I'm not sure if he's played any preseason minutes, but barely any if he has. I think he's probably locked these opening fixtures, and I think at 6 million, Martinelli looks really, really good value. So obviously going with Salah with the expensive back five or back six, I need to try and find some funds somewhere. I do think Saka at 8 million looks like Saka would be on penalties. I think I would, if I had the choice, I would prefer Saka, but I've chosen to spend the money elsewhere. But Martinelli at 6 million, he's a fabulous young player, lightning quick, got an assist in the game against Seville, or maybe even a couple of assists. He got 2 assists, yeah. So for 6 million, I think he looks really good. So I'm happy to go with him.
Yeah, I think I've been throwing, Martinelli's been in a lot of these drafts, and I keep throwing Smith Rowe at them. But, Smith Rowe, last time he played was on the 8th of July against Nuremberg, and he came on, but he played 45 minutes and he's been injured since.
Yeah.
So he hasn't played the last 4 games. Martinelli nailed 6 million in a team that in pre-season have smashed Chelsea 4-0 and Sevilla 6-0. Arsenal beat Everton 2-0 as well, and they beat Orlando 3-1. They're pretty much unbeaten in pre-season. They are unbeaten in pre-season, and it's not like they've just been playing bum teams. So I think, now that I know that Smith Rowe is absolutely out of the race and it's not even a question, Martinelli at 6 million is 100% going to be in my first draft. I think it's a no-brainer. They've been one of the form teams of pre-season, haven't they? If not,
agree. Yeah, he looks really good value.
Who is your 4th pick?
It's an interesting one, this one. I'm quite torn between a couple of players. I think I'm going to go for Trossard of Brighton.
Trossard! A first for the series. He scored a hat-trick at the weekend.
He did. So he plays incredibly far forward for Brighton. Brighton's fixtures are pretty decent to start off with. There's players like, Neto and Rashford and other players of that ilk. But he's now the talisman for that team, Trossard. Incredibly advanced. Brighton finished the season really well too. So with that in mind, I'm going to go for Trossard. I think, like I say, that 6.5 million range is lots of players around there. But I looked at some hub stats on Green Arrow last night, expected points for the final 8 game weeks of the season, and Trossard came out, I think he was 3rd overall, just behind Son and Zaha, strangely enough as well. This is what the hub stats kind of pops up, these kind of players that make you go, wow, which you'd have never have thought of. So Zaha was another one, but he's 500,000 more. But I think I'm going to start off with Trossard in there. So there's your differential.
There's the differential, right, yeah. I love that. I love it because, as you say, with those numbers at the end of last season, a decent pre-season, and look, people might be scared off by United in game week 1, but United are relatively, as you've said that word a couple of times, in disarray, it seems. New manager bounce, people do expect them to do well, but there is a lot of uncertainty there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they concede a few goals. Newcastle, West Ham, okay, but then you've got Leeds, Fulham, Leicester and Bournemouth. So if you can hang on to Trossard and have the depth maybe to rotate around a couple of tough ones or even just play him, I think it's actually a really fun kind of sleeper pick, like a pick that has went under the radar. If we look at the predicted points for the first 4 game weeks at that price point in midfield, the only 2 better players are Martinelli and Odegaard. Then under that, you've got Neto, Pascal Gross, Redmond, Rashford, St. Maximin, Lingard, Bailey. You go on down the list. Odegaard is, the same price, marginally better. Does the Arsenal double up in midfield interest you there, or do you just think Trossard's going to actually outperform Odegaard significantly, the new Arsenal captain?
I like Odegaard. I don't really fancy a double up or a triple up on one team, especially Arsenal. If we were talking maybe Liverpool or Man City or even maybe Spurs and potentially, but I don't really on Arsenal. So I think having Martinelli
there's
in the
the
midfield
Spurs bias
is
coming
enough.
back in.
No, I don't let it cloud my judgment at all. I don't think Odegaard, I really like Odegaard. I think he's a fantastic player. I know he's their captain now, but I think Trossard is one of those beautiful FPL picks as well, whereas if he does come off, it's one of those you look like an absolute genius as well. But,
yeah.
No, I'm really happy to have him in there because he plays as a striker as well. I can't remember. I do think when they played Man United last season, actually, that he had a really good game.
But yeah, Trossard at time of recording, 2.3% owned, so that is 100% a big differential. Trossard in, if you had Almer on instead of Bailey, this would be looking very differential, but I don't know what your team rating would look like. So who's the 5th midfielder?
Andreas Pereira, obviously moved from Man United to Fulham, will likely be playing in the number 10 role. Bit of a no-brainer because, you mentioned earlier, and I think there are a couple of players, a couple of 4.5 midfielders and forwards actually that could actually see a bit of game time. So if none of these players were going to get any game time, I'd be, a bit concerned about my bench, but I'm not really bothered about having a cheap bench because I think Pereira will play for Fulham, and and he will get some attacking returns at some point. So I'm very much a man for sticking my money on the pitch and not really being concerned about the bench.
Speaking of previous 4.5 million budget enabler midfielders, we've got one coming on the series, Fergie, in the next day or two. So people should subscribe if you want to see a current footballer who was 4.5 million and smashed it out of the park in recent seasons. Hit that subscribe button. We're moving on to forwards, Fergie. Who is we'll start from the budget and we'll work up to the top. So who's your cheapest forward?
Got a 4.5 million in, and it's Greenwood. He's just kind of, a bit of a placeholder. So obviously with playing 5 at the back, I'm not going to go 4-3 up front. I was tempted to potentially have a bit of a reshuffle because I really like the look of Callum Wilson at 7.5 million. Obviously, if I go for Almiron, I'm not going to go for Wilson as well. I can't quite squeeze to Wilson. I would love. I think he's going to do really well in game week 1, Wilson, and potentially onwards, because I think Newcastle are a really good team now. Wilson, point of that attack, fabulous number 9. On penalties, obviously concerned about injury, but I've had to decide, I think, to go without him. So Greenwood in the 4.5 role, he'll just kind of rot third on my bench. Predicted points, I know it's only kind of 0.9, which kind of intimates that he will get some minutes. So I'm kind of happy with that off the bench.
He's the only budget sort of forward that has those expected minutes of any description.
Exactly.
Based on the tool. But obviously some of these other guys might get some sub minutes, but time will tell. Based on 19.5 left in the bank, I'm going to guess that you're going for Gabriel Jesus next. And don't tell us which of the premiums you're going for, but you're going to go for a Kane or a Haaland, and that'll be an interesting conversation. Can I slap Jesus in? Because he's like 70% owned, and I would be shocked if you're not going for him.
I am going for Gabriel Jesus.
Oh, I was thinking that you were going to go, give me Wilson. I'll keep $500,000 in the bank.
I was going to chuck in like a Danny Welbeck or something like that, but
yeah.
No, I'm going for Jesus. He is, he just looks electric, and he probably has the potential to perform at a premium price tag. I think at 8 million, which is the thing which kind of excites me most. If he, I think the opening game against Palace is going to be a difficult one. I don't expect an awful lot of points. He may get a goal, he may get an assist in that game, but it's the games after which really, really excite me. So looks like he's going to be the number 9. The comments from the manager, incredibly positive. The comments from him, incredibly positive. Arsenal smashed Sevilla, scored a hat-trick, and that's without penalties. Really excited with Jesus for the season. And not much more to say, really. Yeah,
there's a reason why he's the most picked player in the game. Sometimes you just need to go with the crowd because it's absolutely the optimal pick based on everything at hand. So Jesus is that guy. Now, this spot has been up for some debate throughout the series. It started off with a lot of people picking Haaland. It's transitioned recently to a lot of people picking Kane, but then I think in our last episode we had a Haaland, so it still is kind of 50-50ish, albeit ownership-wise more people do own Haaland than Kane. You're a Spurs fan. I'm gonna call Harry Kane, but maybe I'm wrong.
I am going for someone who's predicted to score 8.9 points in game week 1. Home to Southampton, Harry Kane, my hero. However, I would say that my current thinking is to switch Kane to Haaland in game week 2.
Okay.
I think that Southampton game, so very excited to have a triple up for Spurs, Perisic, Doherty, hopefully feeding Kane for that Southampton game. But I do look at that Bournemouth game next week for Man City. Bournemouth are in, I know we've used the word a few times already. What is there a word worse than disarray?
Here's what we do. Synonym: disorder, chaos.
Chaos.
Muddle, mess, mix up, hodgepodge.
That's actually the back four for Bournemouth. You just named the back four for Bournemouth there. So I can imagine, Haaland could return against West Ham, but I do fancy Kane to do well against Southampton. I'd like to see another week of Haaland as well, potentially, but I can't not be without a Spurs attacker for game week 1. So Kane for Haaland is a likely transfer for me for game week 2. I may have to make the change early if Haaland kicks off against West Ham and Spurs don't, obviously, to avoid the price rise. But I've toyed around with Threemium, having in Son as well. And if you look at, I got Bailey, Martinelli, Trossard, Doherty, a couple of those, especially Doherty and Bailey, could be short-term picks. If they don't kick off in game week 1 or 2, they maybe transfers out. So that's why I couldn't quite stretch to having Son as well. But 5-3-2, I'm really excited. I do think I've got a pretty good team. I'd love to find a way to squeeze in Wilson. I can't. But yeah, that's my team. I've gone for Kane. What's your thinking on Kane against Haaland?
I'm going to put out a video in the next couple of days about it, but ultimately I am team Harry Kane personally. I do not think Erling Haaland's a bad call by any stretch of the imagination. He could go off against West Ham. I just think the correct decision, I think if you use your head, not your heart, we all want the Haaland thing, the new shiny thing. I think the head, if you look at all the data, all the stats, I personally think it points to Kane. And I think I can rest easy on that decision. If Kane, let's say if I pick Kane and Haaland goes off and Kane blanks, I can rest easy. If I was to pick Haaland and he blanks and Kane goes off, I'll go, everything pointed to Kane. Why did I pick Haaland? Do you know what I mean? And it'll annoy me more.
That's how I play fantasy football nowadays. It's that whole thing. If you've got a 50-50, I always think about how I'll feel either side. And I feel exact same as you. If Kane blanks and Haaland goes off, I'm like you. I'll think, well, I still think I made the right decision. I think that's mega important. If you did it the other way around, you don't feel good. It can ruin your weekend, and it can make you make transfers, rage transfers you shouldn't make, and all this sort of stuff. So that's actually one of my primary decision makers when I make a transfer nowadays is how I'll feel if the opposite happens, and it really helps me mentally.
Yeah, I completely agree. For me, it's all about the decision making process, not the outcome. That's where variance comes into it. This is your team. I'm going to give you one chance to change anyone, but I imagine you're pretty locked.
I'm pretty happy, I think. Like I say, people like Almiron, maybe Rashford, maybe Callum Wilson are ones I'm considering, but I think this team looks pretty good for game. I think I've got a nice base. I've got a nice couple of differentials in there. Got the big hitters of Salah and Kane and Jesus as well, so I think I'm happy.
Cool. Well, let's hit the button and see what team rating you come out with and slap you on a table.
Come on, baby.
96% team rating. Predicted points of almost 69. Fergie, if I said to you, you can have 69 points now, would you take it or would you roll the dice?
I think I'd be pleased with that because I've set up a few of the players like Trossard, players like even Martinelli and Jesus. I think they're more game week 2 onwards sort of picks. So I think if I had 69 points, I think that would be a very good start and set up very, very nicely for game week 2. So I'm pretty pleased with that. It'd be interesting to see, what kind of change I'd have to make to get up to 99 or 100% in the team rating. But I might have a play on the tool after this and see, what kind of makes it optimal.
On the table, you have come in at a whopping third place out of 16. Yeah,
come on,
third
bronze
place
medal
out of 16. Yeah, no, absolutely great going. You've knocked FPL Matthew off the podium. You're behind Rich Clark. You had the same percentage. Tiebreaker rules, we go to predicted points, and he has 0.8 predicted points more than you. So he's just pipped you to second. You're sat in third. Matthew goes to fourth. Everyone else shifts down one. On the podium with just a few more episodes to go. Fergie, I think that's a result.
Come on, I'm absolutely over the moon with that. Yeah, really excited, really confident, and you've just bumped up that confidence another notch, John. So thanks for that. Really appreciate it.
And just to break your heart a little bit, if you had the likes of Walker instead of Doherty, you would have been on a 97. You would have leapfrogged Rich Clark, but you still would have been behind Bakar on predicted points. So Bakar is the man to beat. It's going to be very, very hard, but he's kind of led from the front the whole way with that 97 laid down early. All right, Fergie. Well, thanks a million for joining us. Let's hope you go and win another 75 grand this season. Do you want to tell people about the offer at Hub at the minute?
Yeah, the offer at the moment, 50% off, which is absolutely incredible offer to start off with. And also, if you don't win your FPL mini league, you get your money back. So the tools on the Hub, the My Team feature everything, completely groundbreaking, revolutionary, nothing like it in the market. We will help coach you to win your mini league or your money back. It doesn't get much better than that.
Well, there we go. Head over to the link in the description, give it a crack, and let us know your predicted points for game week 1 in the comments. See you next time. Bye-bye.